with commercial real estate, there's no secrets. It's like, how can we increase revenue and how can we decrease expenses? And yeah, a lot of the times you got to invest heavy amounts of money in order to do that, whether you're investing in something that is lower maintenance than it was before, or investing in something that's higher quality. So the market will pay more for that. But at the end of the day, there's only so many tools in the tool bag that you can use.
Your network is your net worth. Come listen to some of the most successful people I know share invaluable knowledge, stories, and advice in real estate, business, and beyond. This is Weiss Advice. Whether you want to take your business or personal life to the next level, look no further. Welcome back to another episode of Weiss Advice. I am so excited to be here today, that being me, Yona Weiss, your host, because I am with Yeadon Smith of Live Oak Real Estate. So excited to have you on here, my friend. What's going on?
Thank you so much, Yona. You know, as soon as you said your name, I'm like, I bet his story is similar. Growing up, I'm like, why don't we go by alphabetical order in reverse by first name? Then I'll get to go first because there's nobody else. There's nobody named Zach. Or, well, in your sphere, maybe Zephaniah or Zedekiah. But in, where I was growing up, Zach was the only Z name that outpaced me.
Yeah. With the W as a last name also, I was always in the back of the class. That's for sure.
I'm really honored to be here with you, Yona. I'm excited for today.
I am too. I'm really glad you came on here. We had you on the Real Estate Connections virtual meetup about a year ago and literally crushed it. Just sharing, genuine, just your story and what you and your cousin Jennings have been able to do over the past few years, growing your real estate company to, I don't even know at this point how much it is, but maybe we'll get into the numbers in a little bit, but I'm inspired. Let's just put it that way. I'm inspired by what you guys do. It's genuine. It's raw. You're not out here, these syndicators, some try to be like, look at me, I'm Ivy League, I have an MBA, yada, yada.
I got 10,000 doors and I'm like, I know how this game works. So I bet I can predict how much equity you have in those 1,000 doors.
Right. Exactly. No, but what I love when I first came across you guys a few years back, it was like, hey, we're a couple of cousins. We're closing on like this, 30, 40 unit building. And yeah, it looks like a good deal. Like, what do we do? And now, learning as you go and teaching others, that's really the best way to get better, just honing your craft. You've created an incredible community. If anyone is listening to this and you're on Facebook and looking for a great group, My First Million in Multifamily is one of my favorite Facebook groups. I'm active in there. I check out your live videos that you do on a regular basis. So just grateful for you to share the mic with me today.
Thanks, brother. Appreciate it.
Tell us a little bit how you got started in the real estate game. I know it hasn't been that long, but just give us a little background.
We've been doing real estate syndication now for 3 years, and 950 doors is our current portfolio. That's going to shrink some this summer because we got a couple projects that we're going full cycle on that we're selling. And we're looking at our next acquisition, trying to find what that's going to be. But we've been doing multifamily syndication for 3 years. Before that, Jennings and I, my cousin, we partnered up to do property management because both of us were in industries that were transactional, hunt, kill, freelance. You do a job, you got to go find another client. I was in real estate general brokerage, helping people buy and sell houses. Jennings was doing custom home building, where you can make solid income doing those things, but you're always looking for your next client.
Right.
And the thing that I really did not like about general brokerage was every single person I knew had dollar signs on their back. Every single person I knew. Right. And somebody that I've known for 5 years is like, oh yeah, we just sold our house. I'm like, and you didn't call me?
Right.
And I hated that feeling. I hated that feeling like I hadn't connected with somebody enough for them to hire me to do the job. And before that, I was working as a health coach, helping people lose weight. Before that, I was full-time in youth ministry out in Texas, El Paso on the mission field. So my real estate career started in 14, general brokerage, property management, started that in 18. And 19 is when we closed our first apartment deal. And we've been going at it ever since. And now, just like you said, we've started our Facebook group. We got so much really demand, so many questions like, do you guys have any educational stuff? Are you going to have a course or anything like that? Like the market pulled that education stuff out of us. Yeah. And the same thing with our accountability group, the deal room. that just kind of happened organically as students bought the course. They're like, you guys have any accountability or mentoring? We're like, yes, we do. It's called the Deal Room. And just kind of,
here it is.
It's grown, and every iteration is getting more and more powerful. We have, in this 6-week cycle, we have students that, hundreds of LOIs sent out, millions of dollars in capital raised, multiple deals under contract, a couple closings. Just, it's so fulfilling to see somebody else succeed.
Yeah. And following your footsteps. And it's really a testament to being great leaders, because a great leader listens to hear what the community needs,
right,
and then comes and fills that gap. And that's exactly what you guys have done with the educational platform, with the coaching, the mentoring, the accountability group. I know a few people who have been in that. And like you said, it's amazing to see.
Hopefully you get to meet more people when they send you an email like, Yona, I hear I'm supposed to email you about a cost seg study.
Right. Yeah. Yeadon says you're the guy. So more of those coming, but it's great to see when someone takes action and has that accountability group that keeps them in line and keeps them making sure that we're making the right decisions.
And that's really what we saw, where there's only so many hour-long conversations I can have. There's only 5 lunch hours in a work week. Yeah. There's only, you can have multiple coffee hours in a work week, but there's only so much caffeine I can handle in a day. And it was not frustrating. It was disheartening to have an in-depth conversation about how you get started, what steps to take, in giving somebody insight into, here's what I would do if I were you. And then nothing. Like, there's only so many times I can do that before, like, guys, I'm sorry, I can't meet you for lunch. I already know how it's going to end. And I've seen it in my own life where the pay to play, which gets a bad rap a lot of the time, but the psychology of it is you pay attention to something that costs you something.
Right.
It's the whole thing. Like, I don't know how your parents were growing up, but like, I got one bicycle as a present growing up. After that, I was on my own. Like, if I wanted to buy the 10-speed bicycle, I had to save up my money, because my parents knew if they buy me, back in the day, $100 bicycle was really expensive. Right. If they buy me a bicycle, I'm not as invested in its care as if I save all summer, buy the bicycle, then I'm going to lock it, because I can't afford for that thing to disappear. I'm going to put it inside before it starts raining, so it's still functioning. In order for someone to take the material we have seriously, we have to charge. It's like, it has to cost something, or people don't take it seriously. That's just how human nature is. And I've seen it in my own life, in the masterminds I'm in. If I'm paying $1,000 a month to be in a group, I'm going to make sure I'm leveraging that as much as I can and leaning on those relationships and asking questions and seeking advice, stuff like that. So
absolutely,
it's a weird thing that's kind of counterintuitive. People don't value what doesn't cost them anything.
It's true. There's always exceptions to the rules, but generally speaking, I totally agree with you. What was your experience in that position? Meaning yourself, you said you're part of a mastermind, you're paying for that. Did you, when you guys first started out, or as you have been scaling, have coaches, have mentorships, have those masterminds that you've been a part of that have helped you along the way?
Oh yeah. I'm in Legacy Family Mastermind with Tim Bratz. I'm in the Dad Alliance Mastermind with Larry Hagner. He has one of the most downloaded podcasts for dads online. And, the Dad Alliance that I'm in, like, I've done the math and I know how much money I lose if I miss one of the calls. It's like, if you're paying $1,000 a month, and I think it's like $750 a month. I'm not trying to throw numbers around, but if there are 4 calls a month and it's $750 a month, if you miss a call, you just flushed away a couple $100. It's like, that's just math. You missed out on taking advantage of it. So I make a priority to be present on those conversations so I can, 1, pour into people, and 2, lean on people when I'm having issues. And that's really what it's about. The mastermind, regardless whether it's $100 a month or $1,000 a month or $100,000 a year, whatever it is, knowing that you're in this group with me, I know what it costs me to be here. So I'm giving you a certain amount of credibility and respect, because this group is not free. It's like the level of relationships that you can develop inside those groups is significantly more than just, I'm not talking about your high school buddies that you get together once a year and go camping. Like, that's not it. Right. But at a professional level, everybody takes you seriously because it costs significant resources to be in this room.
Absolutely. And those people who are in the room are doing it for the same reasons you are, meaning everyone's trying to grow, and everyone realizes that to a certain extent, you have to pay to play to make sure you can maximize your reach and the accountability, really. I mean, for me, myself, I literally just recently signed up to one of these mastermind groups for capital raising, for multifamily investing, because I have a big network. I have a great opportunity to be a part of this, instead of just being on the sidelines or investing passively. Maybe I can take a more active role than I have in the past. And I realized I'm never going to do that if I don't actually get out of my own comfort zone and join
and
a
now
group.
That you've written a check, it's like, you know what? Nope, I'm going to be at that. I'm going to be on that call.
Yep.
Because otherwise I'm just wasting my money.
100%. Walk me through, if you would, like what it's like getting on one of these one-on-one groups. Some guy comes and says, Yeadon, you inspire me. I want to invest with you. Like, how do you take someone who's like, okay, they're in your Facebook group, they're maybe your mastermind group, like, I like what you're doing. I want to put my money with you. Taking on a new investor. I know you deal a lot with the investor relations and dealing with that. Being a steward, which you are, how do you walk someone through that?
This is where my sense of humor would say, I just send them my Venmo and we're like, all right, let's do it. Except Venmo has a limit of like $3,000. So that wouldn't actually work. And nor would I do that for legal reasons. But when somebody reaches out like, hey, you got anything going on? Because of the nature of our investments, they are 506B Bravo, meaning that we have to have a prior relationship with all of our investors, or they have to have a prior relationship with somebody on the team in order to put any money in the deal. We can't take an investor cold that is like, hey, I heard you guys have a need for $100,000. Can I say, like, I'm sorry, legally, we can get in serious trouble if we do that. So in the first conversation, it's more just like, okay, why are you interested in multifamily? What makes this attractive to you? What are your long-term goals with investing? Do you understand? I mean, real estate is pretty simple to understand. People have to have a place to live, and that's not free. Like, bottom line, housing is not free, at least in the US. Like in other parts of the world, you maybe get to have housing for free, but there are also pros and cons in those markets as well. So it's an initial conversation. And then after that, it's a simple matter of just maintaining communication, usually through email. It was like, hey, they go on our email list. Like, here's what we got going on. And really, we don't have segmented email lists of like, these are all of our investors. These are all of our podcast listeners. These are all of our Facebook groups. It's just kind of one giant list that we have tags on. So if somebody has connected with us, our email list is how we communicate with them. We put them on the email list. We send out multiple emails every week. I was just getting responses from people from the email that we sent out yesterday. And I'm just communicating with them, letting them know. Usually when we talk about, like just yesterday, when we're talking about the Tulsa refinance on our weekly broadcast, that's oftentimes where people say, hey, do you have anything coming up? I'm interested. And that's where we start the conversation so we can build that relationship to make sure it's legal.
Sure.
And also not just from a legal standpoint, but from a comfort standpoint, right? You don't want the first conversation you have with somebody, oh, and by the way, I got an opportunity for you right here. Right. Just give me $100,000. Like, dude, we're having cocktails at the business after hours. And I just met you, right? We talk to our students like, guys, even if you have a deal, you don't mention it in the first conversation. Don't rev up the chainsaw like, no, say, let's talk more.
Right.
I'll send you some information because it's a big deal when somebody wires $50,000, $100,000 into one of these investments. They're not guaranteed. They're not FDIC insured. No. There's risk. There's also reward, but you want to make sure that the last thing I want is having to explain to an investor why they're not getting their $100,000 back.
Yeah.
It's like, I can explain why, hey, we're giving you back 80,000 and here's my plan to catch up on the 20,000 that you're lacking. But I've had to look investors in the eyes like, am I going to get my $87,000 back? Like, yes, you will. And I take that seriously. In fact, at the mastermind I was at with Tim Ross Legacy Summit, and off the last speaker of the conference, he said that in the past 6 months, he just finished paying off investors from the crash in 08, 09 that had put money with him. I was like, respect. There's hope for me. It's like, I hope I never have a story like that. But at the same time, how powerful is that to know, to have something go sideways? And here's when something went sideways. Yeah. And here's how I made sure all the investors were whole.
Yeah. And something like that takes, obviously that's a lot of integrity after so many years. Most people would just write it off. And unfortunately, that's what did happen to a whole lot of people.
Yeah. And that's what did happen to a lot of people.
But paying it off over those years, that's pretty inspiring. That is. Have you had any deals that,
It was definitely
that kind of went south? I know it's kind of a short-lived career and everyone's been on the up and up, but like any deals that didn't pencil out or something that, I'm sure there's been some of those deals out there.
Yeah, there's always a deal like that. And we have a couple of deals right now that are taking more focus than we thought they would, where it's like, okay, the numbers, our projections aren't working. We're on track. It's taking longer because of supply chain issues and various things. Like, okay, how do we pivot to solve this problem? Because it's still a good property.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I like about real estate is, hey, we still have a hard asset. This is not like a company whose value could potentially fall to zero. This is a hard asset that's going to have value, even if the cash flow gets screwed up. And if the cash flow gets screwed up, all we got to do is figure out how to get that back on track. And yeah, we've had, I know in December, we had to stop the pref payment on one of our properties. And, that was the first time that had happened to us. And I tell you what, having to call investors to say, hey guys, this money is still owed to you. Just, we can't send it out monthly anymore. So your account is just growing for the time being, and we will catch it up as soon as we can. But, those are hard conversations. But the thing that I've learned as I've grown is valuing experience from an emotional standpoint. It's easy to intellectually think this is what I'm going to do in that situation, but people don't make rational decisions. They make emotional decisions. And so now I'm learning how valuable it is to think, what problems have you been through? What hard conversations have you had to have that you have survived and worked through and come out, moderately successful or maybe wildly successful, or even just you didn't die at the other end? What have those conversations looked like in your life? Because if you haven't faced the emotional pressure, you don't know really how you're going to react.
That's so true. So powerful. Going through times like that, especially when you're dealing with investors, you're dealing with other people's money, it gives you real life experience and trying to figure out how to best serve people, because ultimately that's what you're doing. I mean, you have to realize a lot of people, this is their retirement money, or this is their nest egg. Exactly right. People can't afford to lose that.
I do not want to have to look at the people that know, like, and trust me, who I love, and say, remember that $100,000 you put in this deal? Gone. Poof. Like, nope, that's not going to happen. We've diluted our equity in projects to raise more capital. We've injected cash into projects to keep them on track. Like, this stuff is not for the faint of heart, but going through those emotional, punching bag sessions builds you a thicker skin emotionally, that emotional pressure muscle to be able to survive on the other side.
That's a really good point. I think a lot of people look at business, and myself included, it's more of an intellectual thing. You're running a business, it's numbers. Sure, you have to deal with people, obviously, but it can be very kind of cold when you're looking at the numbers and running spreadsheets. But when you realize it's a living organism, you have investors, you have people, families really involved. You have tenants who are your real customers who you're dealing with and want to make sure they're having the best experience possible. It takes on a whole life of its own. It's very different than just running numbers and running a business.
These are real people with real lives, real connections. They love, they hate, they have families, they have children, they have parents. They have the same issues I do. It's just different names.
Where do you see yourself going right now? I mean, I know you guys have invested not only multifamily, done some mobile home parks, some self-storage, some other stuff, other types of asset classes you guys are looking into, or other types of businesses, or just really focusing on multifamily still?
Right now, we're keeping our focus in the multifamily space. Self-storage, we have one self-storage deal that is just running like a top. The manager there is just keeping that project right on. That's actually Jennings' sister who's managing that, my cousin. We're keeping it in the family, trying to be good family people. But really, what we want to focus on now is making sure that our portfolio is as stable as we can in the next 6 months. Making sure that if there's a problem asset, we fix it or get it off the plate as soon as we can, just to prepare for either the opportunity or the blood that's coming. Like, regardless of what happens, whether there's massive opportunity or massive pain, we want to make sure that we can survive and come out the other end, okay, and all of our investors okay. That on the syndication side. And then we're really driving as much value as we can to our membership group, the Deal Room, with new tools, new resources. Jennings we just published our social media guide that we dropped in there. We're working on an updated deal analyzer tool that's going to be ready. We've partnered with one of our members who's revitalizing it. We'll have that in another 30 days. And
that's great.
I'm going to start working on like a funnel for investors. If you're doing 506C, that sort of thing where you can funnel and, build your investor portfolio that way. So that's what we're focused on for the next 6 months.
That's awesome. It's exciting. By the time this airs, it'll be, hopefully still relevant, but it's exciting to hear because a lot of people are worried at this time. I've spoken to a lot of investors kind of standing on the sidelines, just waiting and seeing what happens. But most people who are smart operators are trying to figure out how to make their current investments as profitable as possible, cutting expenses, increasing NOI. Are there any tips or tricks that you want to share with us in terms of asset management or increasing NOI or things like that pops into your head?
Guy I follow, his name is Seth Godin, and I love his writing. I read all of his emails. Even if I don't read them the day he sends them, I just leave them unread until I actually get to them. And I remember one email that I absolutely loved. He's like, there's no such thing as a shortcut. Because if a shortcut worked, it would just be called the way. Shortcuts. Once a shortcut is discovered, it's not a shortcut anymore. It's just standard operating procedure, right? So like with commercial real estate, there's no secrets. It's like, how can we increase revenue and how can we decrease expenses? And yeah, a lot of the times you got to invest heavy amounts of money in order to do that, whether you're investing in something that is lower maintenance than it was before, or investing in something that's higher quality. So the market will pay more for that. But at the end of the day, there's only so many tools in the tool bag that you can use. And I will say one thing, we have one of our favorite properties. It was a assisted living facility that was turned into apartments. Assisted living facilities are master metered. Nothing is sub-metered.
Right.
And we found this deal on LoopNet, actually, where deals go to die, right? As everybody knows. So we found it on LoopNet. Nobody's interested in it, but that deal is actually one of our most powerful deals. It's just generating, it was stabilized, refinanced, everything's good. But since it's all inclusive, here's one thing. If you have a property like that, don't advertise rent as all inclusive. Because that makes it too high, right? It's like we're charging $650 for a unit and it's $150, water, trash, sewer, electric, gas, everything included in that fee. If you market it as $800, then somebody who has a budget of $650 for rent and a budget for $150 for utility, they're going to miss it because they're searching by $650. So even if it's an all-inclusive thing, split out in your marketing what the rent is and what the utility fee is, so you don't miss what your target market is. That's one thing that we learned on that property.
That's an awesome point. And did you end up sub-metering it after, or you kept it as master?
No, because when we dug into the due diligence, it's like, I don't know why anybody passed on this deal. We looked at the actual utility bills for the property when it was, 95% full, and they were minimal. It's like also in an assisted living facility, everything is so small. It's like, you can't run your air conditioner nonstop. Your apartment will be 55 degrees. It's like, like, it's not physically possible to.
The units are so small.
It's physically difficult to abuse that privilege. It's like, oh, I can just, it's like maybe somebody takes an hour-long shower, but most people don't. Nobody's just leaving their hot water. Like, you know what? I'm just leaving my hot water running all day today. People don't do that.
That's good. Especially if they have a good relationship with the property manager.
Right. It's a nice place. We got good quality tenants. Everybody wants a nice place to live, quiet enjoyment, that sort of thing. So that's good.
Awesome. I want to switch over now what we call the final four. These are 4 questions I ask all my guests. First question for you is, what is the worst job that you ever had?
Worst job I ever had? That is easy. I was 17 and I had the brilliant idea. I was filling out applications everywhere. 17, so 1998-ish circa. And it was a Winn-Dixie supermarket here in the South. I don't think they're around anymore, at least not in my market, but applied for a night stock boy. Job started at 10 p.m., finished at, 7 a.m., that sort of thing. So it's like, oh my gosh, I'll work all night, take a nap, and then I'll be good to go.
Yeah, right.
Well, I can't wait for the day when one of my sons comes to me with this brilliant idea, because it did not work. Oh my gosh. I came home, I'd finish at 7 a.m., go home, crash, sleep till 1, 2. And by that point, the day is basically shot. There's nothing really to do except do some errands, do some chores, and then wait around for your next shift at 9 or 10 p.m. I lasted 2 weeks. And I was so green. I told the general managers like, look, this is my last day. And he's like, you're not even going to give us 2 weeks notice? I'm like, oh, I guess, okay, I'll work through the rest of this week, but then I'm out. I could not, easily the worst job I've ever had.
Yeah, that sounds like it. Can't imagine that. The second question, what is a book you've read that's given you a paradigm shift?
A book I've read that's given me a paradigm shift. The book that I find myself coming back to over and over is Flip the Script by, I think, Oren Klaff. And I love the subtitle is How to Get People to Think Your Idea is Their Idea. And it's all about creating a connection and just leading somebody through the process of, it's not like subliminal messaging of like planting an idea. It's not Inception level, but it's like people trust their own ideas.
Right.
So how can you use psychology and language and communication to help somebody think of the idea that you know is the solution? If you're the expert, if I were to tell you, Jonah, if I could show you a way to do this, would you do it? Well, you're going to say no, because you don't think there's a legit way to do that. You think I'm just full of hot air. So how is well, what if we positioned it this, just ways to ask questions and have communication so that the person like, wait a minute, I got an idea. What if we did this? I'm like, I love it. That's right. Let's do that.
Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
I love that book.
That's great. I mean, that's like coaching 101, really being a parent, also being a teacher. You got to empower your kids, empower your students to come up with the ideas on their own.
That's right.
That's awesome. Okay. We'll put that in the show notes. Definitely check that out. Third question, what's a skill or talent that you would like to learn?
So a skill or talent that I would like to learn, I would really like to be better at drumming. So back in my youth ministry days, I played piano growing up, took guitar lessons, music theory lessons. I even took some drum lessons when I was in youth ministry, but now I'm 41. I have 4 children, full-time job, going 100 miles an hour, training for a full Ironman in September. I don't have much spare time. I wish one day I will create time so that I can re-engage with drum lessons and continue that journey. I'm a poor drummer at best. I can keep a beat, but my music theory is enough that I can sit in with some groups. But my son, William, he's a heavy metal thrash drummer, metalhead.
That's
plays.
Cool.
He plays. I need earplugs in the house when he plays in the office.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. Well, good luck to you. That'll be great to bring that in, get a little more music. Fourth and final question, what does success mean to you?
That is the quote unquote $64,000 question from the 60s or the $1 million question from the 90s. Success looks like getting to the end of your life and seeing the person you could have become and being that person. Not, you got to have money to pay bills, but at some point, money's just money. Like if you die with $100 million in the bank, is that successful? You can't take it with you. You can't take it with you. You may have just left major problems for everybody you left behind, right? So how can you create a life that has impact and create the connections with your family so that they continue, maybe not the impact that you had, but they're set up to have their own impact on the world, right?
Yeah.
A thing that I read somewhere, I forget where it was, do you want to be a dutiful descendant or an awesome ancestor? Right? It's like, we know who Abraham descended from. No, I don't even know. I was about to say Ur, but that wasn't his dad. This is where he was from. He was from Ur of the Chaldees, right? Do we even know Abraham's father's name?
Terach.
Okay, yes, that's right. It's like Abraham, awesome ancestor. I don't know if he was a dutiful descendant. Like he took his whole family and moved and everything. And, hey guys, we're going this way to create the future for this tribe of people. And we're going to change the world over here. Right.
Yeah.
He probably irritated some of his family that he
certainly did.
No doubt. Like having that mentality of, am I living for the recognition of those that I look up to? Or am I living and that's not bad. I'm not knocking that. Or am I making decisions that my descendants are going to, is like, you know what? Great granddad is the reason why we're here where we are today, because of decisions he made that led us be in this position to have this impact on the world, to make the world a better place now. And that's what I really think about success. Like, how can I set that up, not only for me, but for my children, so they're not shackled to, oh man, my dad always wanted me to be a lawyer. That classic movie trope. Dad, I don't want to be a lawyer. Sure. I don't want to be a doctor. I want to be a singer. I want to be a writer, whatever. Like I want to be a nonprofit director. Like, great, go do that and impact the world that way.
That's awesome. I love that answer. It's so true on so many levels. I love how you articulated it because it's a whole different way of looking at it. I mean, we've had similar answers before, but like I said, the way that you kind of played it out there with the being a good descendant, being a good ancestor, and showing the light for future generations. It's making an impact. That's really what it's about. So
absolutely.
Thank you. Yeadon, where can our listeners find you? What's the best place for them to find you or reach out to you?
The platform where I am all over the place is Facebook. Easy to find. You type my name in the search bar. My dad might pop up first because he's Franklin Yeadon Smith and I'm just Yeadon Smith. So the F's kind of precede the Y's in the alphabet. I'm on Facebook. Our group, My First Million in Multifamily, is a great place to get started. Totally free. We broadcast live every week. There's a lot of activity. You've seen, we curate that group hard. There is almost I can't say there's zero spam because always somebody filters through and then I screenshot it, block it, and sort of nope, you're out. But that's a great place. You can find me online. I have a lot of writing on the site Medium. You can just search me, yeadonsmith.medium.com. A bunch of articles that I've written about life and business and stuff.
Awesome. Well, we'll make sure to put that in the show notes so people can check you out. I hope they do because this has been awesome. And I'm sure they're going to get continued value if they do so. So I appreciate you taking the time today and spending it with us here today.
Jonas, my pleasure, brother. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
The pleasure is mine. And to our listeners, thank you guys. I appreciate you guys for listening all the way to the end. And remember, the best advice comes only when you ask. Real quick, I have one question for you. Did you like this episode? If you did, I want to ask you a huge favor. See, the biggest thing that helps this podcast grow and that will spread this message to the whole world is that if you leave a review, a rating, and subscribe to the podcast. What that does is it basically tells the platforms that this podcast is out on is that you like my stuff and I'm doing something right. So take a few seconds out of your day, hit that subscribe button, leave a rating or review. I would be extremely grateful. Also, I want to hear from you guys. So I want to hear some feedback. If you have any questions for future episodes, please find me on LinkedIn. Send me a DM, a connection request, Yona Weiss, and I'd love to hear from you.